Hello and welcome back to the Dare and Doing podcast. I'm Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. Ben, we're back.
We're back.
2 weeks. 2 weeks, no Dare and Doing. We're back. We
Have
are
you missed?
back.
Have you missed
How you
us?
feeling?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. Start of a new
Yeah,
venture today. First day not at work. I'm
Mate,
officially.
that's so exciting.
I know. I'm officially unemployed. that's the line I'm going with.
Congratulations.
Thanks, mate. But no, I feel good. Euros around the corner.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff happening with Spurs. It feels exciting.
How are you feeling? Because I'm constantly going through my Twitter looking for that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And nothing's happening. We're getting links like Football London and stuff like that. There's no like tier one proper source like a Fab, like a Fab Bomber or Paul O'Keefe. There's been a few bits, and we're going to get into it. This episode is very action packed with everything that's happened over the last like 2 weeks and more. So keep tuned. But I just keep looking through, like just trying to find something that's going to get me excited. But we're in that sort of that part of the year where the transfer window hasn't really opened yet. We're starting to go towards the Euros, so club football's almost like off the agenda, and it's almost How are you feeling? Because I'm actually getting a bit bored. I'm just waiting. It's that anticipation, and it's frustrating.
I get what you mean.
Have you enjoyed like the break off Spurs as well?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that it's nice. But it's been nice to have like a couple of weeks off from it, because it's like that end to the season was a little bit. I don't know. Like, we all kind of felt that, like around the City game. I think we felt like we were just running on empty a little bit as a fan base, and I think that City game kind of really exemplified that. And I think we all kind of just end it now, even though we've had a really good season, a really positive season. And the feeling around that game kind of just made us all just want to be like, right, we're done now. We're not going to get in the Champions League.
Yeah,
that game was a horrible experience. Sheffield United was a good way to end it, and obviously Arsenal not winning the league. And then that was a good time to close the book, and it's done. And then we move on and look forward to next season. And also, I think the Euros being around the corner has almost helped us sort of be like, actually really look forward to next season, because we haven't got a whole summer of like thinking on things and kind of that'll naturally happen anyway. Even with the tournaments and like stuff, your feeling towards the club football isn't going to go away, and you're still going to look forward to stuff. But I think it's a welcome distraction a little bit. But there has been
100%,
a hell of a lot that's happened in the last like kind of couple of weeks since the season's done. But it's nice to look forward to tournament football. Feels good.
Yeah, it does.
Feels like proper.
It does. And it's the excitement. Sorry, I fucking cut you off.
No, I was
the excitement of like. It's the excitement.
It's been a couple of weeks. We're a bit rusty.
I know, yeah. Bear with us, everyone. Bear with us. But yeah, there's the excitement of like seeing, like uncovering these gems in the Euros and the World Cup as well. There's always players that you see play, and they play with like a bit of a flair, or they play. It's like these iconic games, and where the spotlight hasn't been on them until now. They sort of break through in the Euros, and that's what gets me excited, because you see all these players, and then you hear the links after, the transfer winners after, and you're like, they'd be perfect for us. Like, are there any players you're going to be looking for in this Euros? I'm thinking Eze.
Is it? Eze watch? Does Eze watch begin on the 16th of June against Serbia? He'll be in the squad, surely. You'd imagine that he'll be in the final squad. Or we'll find out on Friday.
Do you reckon him or Maddison? What do you reckon?
I think that might be the conversation. But also, I think there is kind of room to take both of them. Is there not? Is it have a bit of fun with it? He's got to cut down 7 players, which is going to be a lot. But yeah, I mean, Eze would be one of them. Even though he's probably, even if he's in the squad, I don't. How much we'll see him, who really knows? Obviously, England are playing tonight, which I think a lot of people have kind of forgot about. I don't know when this is going out, but
I didn't even know that.
The Bosnia game. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. It's like, England are playing tonight. It's like, no. And then we're playing again on Friday. But yeah, no, there's a bit of a few players. I remember, it's like kind of what you're saying. I feel like the Euros is almost like better for that as well. Like these players, I don't know why. Like these kind of like little breakout stars in the World Cup. Sometimes you have I know like Amrabat was a massive kind of breakout from the World Cup, the last World Cup. I mean that ended well. But I remember when I was younger, and Spurs had like agreed the deal to sign Modric, and like nobody really knew who Modric was. And then because England weren't in that Euros that Modric sort of broke out from in 2008, we'd signed him before the end of the season, And then we were all watching this guy being like, oh, fucking hell, who's this? Like Luka Modric. And he was like amazing. And Croatia, I think, got to maybe the quarters and got knocked out, I think, by Turkey. But it was like, there was no England. So we were kind of all paying attention to him. And then we were really buzzing for him to like come after that. But there'll be a few exciting, there'll be a lot of exciting players.
There's also like where it goes the other way, where there's a quality player from the Euros and then you never fucking hear of him again. Do you remember the last Euros? Is it Damsgaard for Denmark?
Yeah.
He was ripping it up. Everyone was like, next Eriksen, he looks unbelievable. He scored that free kick against England. Everyone was, and then there was all the rumours of Don Pratici looking at him from Sampdoria. Was it Sampdoria?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
he was looking for, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is groundbreaking!" Like, "Oh my god, this is." He went to Brentford, and I never fucking heard of him since. I think he's got the same. He's got the same strength as Brian Hill.
Yeah,
he's tiny.
He's absolutely tiny. Yeah. Damsgaard's a good shout, actually. That was the one from the last Euros. He got a really bad injury though off the back of it, didn't he? I think like he didn't.
Oh, really?
I think he did his ACL or something like in the summer after the Euros.
Yeah.
But I mean, that goal against England. But I want that feeling back. That last Euros felt like, I don't know. Obviously, the fact we got to the final was amazing, but like, I don't know whether it's off the back of like us being in lockdown for so long, and then kind of coming into the tournament, and we just wanted that release. I think that played a massive part in it as well. Made it feel like that even a little bit more special. But I mean, we should say really, we are going to be doing Euros pods. We're going to do daring and doing bonus episodes around the Euros, mainly around England. Let's be honest. But if there's any other kind of games and players that sort of, take our fancy, we will talk about it, of course. But there'll be Spurs podcast because there's going to be so much to talk about. Obviously, like that was what we were saying before. Like, when you're planning things and you're planning content and stuff, it's like, oh god, when the season finishes, what we're going to talk about? Even if there was a tournament summer, but do you think how much has happened in the Premier League since the season's finished? So there's going to be so much Spurs stuff to talk about. But I think we want to kind of almost like we want that outlet to talk about England. So if you guys want to listen, then we will be doing England pods throughout the summer, and hopefully all the way to the 14th of July. When we fucking bring it home.
If we bring it home, we're doing a pissed up pod.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
First thing Monday morning. Still just pissed.
What?
No, like the Monday morning after. Yeah. I don't think we'll be doing it like right after kickoff, or right after the final whistle. But
we've just won England just won the Euros, and we jump on this pod.
Yeah, welcome back to Daring to Do It. Yeah, welcome back, guys. Why have we got no views?
Talking about talking about Eze, we have been there. There has been murmurs, and I don't know how much we can go into this, because it's the in the nose on Twitter. There hasn't been any sort of journalists that have sort of tweeted this. We have been linked with Eze for a long time, but in the nose on Twitter have reported. Was it the secret source or the
secret prem? I think
secret prem.
Tier 1
Eze,
apparently.
Tier 1, yeah. I have been seeing a lot of tier 1s being thrown about this source, but Eze is above Gallagher in the shopping list apparently. So Ben, if that's true, talk to me about Eze and how he'd fit the system, and what is the most realistic move between Gallagher and Eze? Because I think stylistically, in that number 8 role, Gallagher probably is the better fit. But because if we go for both of them, then we're not going to go for number 6. That's just too many players coming into the midfield when it's already quite packed. But then that's just, if we don't go for number 6, that's just neglect. Like that's just the neglect of the squad, because we definitely need a number 6 over a number 8 if we're looking at players like Bergvall, Bentancur, Saar coming, like Bergvall coming in. We're going to have those 3 players in that position hopefully. What's the best fit? And what's the most realistic option out of Gallagher and Eze? And how would Eze fit this system? Because I'm looking at it thinking, is he going to be a winger, or is he going to be like a competition for Maddison in that attacking 8? Or what do you think?
I think the beauty of him is that he can be both. I think it's one of those. I know, like, we're all caught up on sort of the vibe of Eze a little bit. Like, we all really want him. But I do think, I know we talked about it before, of it being like, does this actually make a lot of sense? We need this sort of touchline 1v1 dribbly winger, obviously. But I think he can. I think he can be that. He's maybe not got that explosive pace of someone like a Nico Williams, but again, I think we've talked about before how important someone like Dane Kulusevski is to the team in terms of his ball retention in the final third. Eze does not give the ball away. He's got so much quality when he's got it. If you've got that on the left-hand side, you think of that little interchange with James Maddison and Destiny Udogie down that side as well. There is a risk that maybe they get in each other's way a little bit. But I think Eze as a touchline winger for Palace has performed pretty well over the years as well. I remember there was a performance at Anfield a couple of seasons ago where Zaha almost played a little bit more through the middle and Eze was drifting out wide a lot of the time. He has got that ability to take players on and be really, really explosive. I think you could play him and Maddison together in those eights as well if you're sort of chasing that game. I think he drops back quite nicely. I think his ball progression and ball carrying ability from deep is really underrated as well. I just think he's an amazing player that even if he's not 100% the perfect fit for what we need in midfield or the front three, I just think you can't turn down signing a player of that quality if they want to do it. I just think it makes too much sense not to do it in that aspect. I'd absolutely love him. I think he'd fit Spurs like a glove in terms of where we're trying to go, what he brings as a player in terms of we love those sort of players that have that flair, have that attitude almost a little bit, although you'd maybe sort of put that maybe more towards Michael Elise than Eze. Eze's the one that plays
with a smile on your face.
Yeah, Elise's more of the sort of the killer, which have served him well because Elise is an incredible player. But again, we should sort of say that there has been rumours this morning. Obviously, Crystal Palace have signed Kamada, looking like they might sign Joe Bellingham, although we've been linked with him a little bit as well. And it seems like Elise might be edging towards staying at Palace now. We all know that Elise, Eze, and Mark Gay are not going to leave Palace in the same summer. I think Eze is the most likely to leave. I do, because I think he's older. I think we'll see an opportunity to get 60, 70 million for him when they brought him in for 10, 15 from QPR those years ago. It's a huge profit. Obviously, naturally, they want to keep him. I know their record, I think, with and without him in the team shows how important he is. But again, a lot of those times where he wasn't playing, Elise wouldn't have been playing either. So it's skewed a little bit in terms of his importance to Palace. He's an amazing player, but I think Palace might see Eze as the most dispensable, which I think will work in our favour a little bit because I think he will be so important to us and adds so much, allows you to. Towards the back end of the season, when Maddison wasn't playing well so much, we didn't see that same consistency. We were talking about, right, who do we play in that number 10? You're sort of moving Kulusevski out of position a little bit, although he sees his long-term future there. If you've got, right, we're going to move Eze in off the left, go with someone else on the left-hand side and play Eze as that number 10, mate, you couldn't find many better options than that. I just think he'd be an amazing signing that I think I was talking about this to some friends last night. I think Spurs are at that stage now where we've done some decent squad building over the last couple of years, last couple of windows, since Ange has been here and since Johan Lang has been here, obviously since January, and Paratici as well, still working in the background. That needs to continue in certain areas of the squad, especially going into Europe next year again. But I think this summer has to be about adding that real X factor quality to the team, and I think Eze does that. Adds that competition for places as well. I think again when you're looking at the striker positions, I think that's why you need to go out and sign like someone like a Tony, because it adds something. It's an upgrade, you know. I'm not saying Eze is necessarily an upgrade on Maddison. Some people might see him as that, but I think even if there are maybe better fits, I just think in terms of pure quality, I think the way I look at it is that Man City, right? I know we're not in that same ballpark. Do Man City realistically need a Barry Eze? Maybe not. Would they go out and sign him if they had the chance? Probably. Same as Arsenal. Liverpool probably the same as well. And I think that's how we kind of need to operate with this transfer. We've talked about this so much. I fucking love him. He's my favourite player in the league. We should have signed him. We should have signed him when he was at QPR. Same as that. We should have signed Maddison when he was at Norwich. We should have signed Grealish when he was at Villa. Like, you know, Eze. Oh man, just bring me a better Eze, please.
He'll be that sort of game changer in the fact that when you bring off a Maddison or a Son, there isn't a drop off. Whereas that's our problem at the moment. And or Son's injured or Maddison's injured, there isn't a drop off. There's almost like that's a shame. But we can get through this because we've got the same quality of player in Eze who can play both positions.
Yeah.
My thinking is that go on.
I was going to say we saw a bit of a false nine towards the end of the season with Kulusevski playing there.
Yeah.
Is there as a false nine? I think he's got the technical quality. I think he's got devastating finishing as well. You seem like just from outside the box, what he can do. I think last season there was a goal in the last game of the season that he scored against West Ham. That was it's super bullshit stat, but it was like it was like the hardest goal, like it's in terms of shot power in the Premier League that season. Like he's got real devastating finishing ability, so much composure, and I think positional awareness as well. I think he's such a clever player.
Yeah.
I think again, if that gives Spurs another little bit of flexibility to maybe play him there. Maybe not get the best out of him, but he's got so much quality in front of goal that you could do it and
Just
have more of a
option.
fluid front three a little bit.
Yeah, that would be nuts. And sort of creating that box in midfield that worked so well against like the City and Sheffield United. But yeah, I know what you mean, because he could play there because he's really clever in the fact when his positioning in the box, when he arrives in the box, he always finds himself in really, really clever positions because he's not the biggest, not the most physical, but he gets a lot of goals in the box for Palace, just arriving late or unmarked. And yeah, he would be incredible. The only thing is that when you look at that sort of starting lineup, I think Son, established, unbelievable, world-class player. He will be predominantly playing off the left. I think that's his best position. We're looking for that striker or Richarlison or whoever it is up front. Matters. I think the position on the right is more needed to be upgraded. Eze, there's question marks of Eze on the right, I think, and that
I agree.
he is versatile, but I don't know if he can play on the right. So there is that question there. But I was thinking, if Elise doesn't move, massive. That's absolutely massive to this transfer becoming like a realistic option, because Elise, I mean, when you look at Elise, and I'm thinking his options: Newcastle, Chelsea, United. They're the ones that Fabrizio Romano's linking them with. Predominantly Newcastle and Chelsea and United. They're not that good. No. They're such an unknown quantity, and they're fucking like shit. That's
Newcastle was actually probably the most attractive option really out of those three.
Yeah,
maybe
but then they have to sell. But then they have to sell Newcastle to buy it. Yeah. Same with Chelsea, and I can't see them. I can see them sort of stagnating, I think, and for next season in their progress. When you look at Spurs, we're on a team on the rise. Where you can see the projection of the team and the trajectory. And yeah, I don't know if Elise, the smartest move is for Elise to move. Maybe he has one more year at Palace and Eze moves on, but Eze doesn't have a release clause, I don't think. So that would be hard, because if you're not going to sell Elise, if you're going to sell one of them, Eze is good because then you can drive the price up because he hasn't got a release clause. Like I think his price tag's probably around 60 to 70, which is a lot, and that would take a lot for Spurs to do. But there's a lot of things in that. There's a lot of with the agent, the fact that he sort of there has been that sort of link for a while with Spurs and Eze, how much we love him. There are a few sort of elements of that deal that suggest it could happen, but I just don't. He'll be very expensive if because just from him not having a release clause, they'll definitely drive the price up.
I think he's worth the money though. But I think he's that good. I think he's worth the money. I agree with you though, in terms of like, I was trying to. It's one of those things where you want him so much, you kind of try and almost force it a little bit in terms of where you think he could play. And I think like the false nine thing is just almost like an idea. But if you're coming in to say that, if you're saying that he can maybe play on the right, I'm sure he's got the ability to do that. But it doesn't quite click into place. Whereas like, on the left-hand side, you've actually seen him play there, and in that number 10, he operates best when he's central, I think. But again, one team I think that might almost scupper it a little bit, not in terms of the fact that they might go for Eze, but could you maybe see someone like Liverpool going in for Elise? I know it looks like Salah's probably going to stay now, but that could be someone that they maybe look out for that long-term right wing position. But again, it's kind of the same with Mark Gay, right? Like they're both, Elise and Gay are both at stages of their career where they don't really need to rush into making any decisions. And
no, they're so young.
Where Palace are going under Glasner, again, we're kind of saying this to almost benefit Spurs in this situation, but it kind of does make sense. Like just stay there, continue to develop your game. Like you look at the England squad, Palace have got more players in it than anybody. They've got 4 players. Granted, one of them is the goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, who is likely going to be in there as that third backup. Eze might drop out. Adam Wharton. I think Wharton's going to be in the squad. I do. I think he will be there. And I think there could be a surprise. Again, you probably save this for when we do the England pods and stuff. But just in terms of where Palace are at, I think Wharton could be almost that surprise starter a little bit, I think, in terms of what we saw with Calvin Phillips at the Euros a few years ago. But that just shows you how healthy Palace are as a club right now. And Mark Gay, I think, could even be a starter in the tournament for England as well. So they're doing fine. They know that they've got a manager in Gareth Southgate who probably will give chances to players like that from clubs like Palace, but they've warranted it as well. It's not just a gimme pick. It's like they deserve to be there. So they might see those opportunities are going to come. Obviously, Elise's not been picked for France, which is a massive shame, and I think a complete oversight, to be honest. But that just shows you that if they're in those conversations at Crystal Palace, and in terms of where they are going, maybe it is best for them to stay there. Whereas Eze is 25 going on 26.
25.
Yeah, kind of a similar stage to where Maddison was at Leicester. And again, it makes it easy for
exactly.
Maddison was relegated. But again, I was thinking about it this morning. Look, we were linked with Maddison the summer before we signed him. Bit like this year, we were linked with Eze towards the back end of last summer from reliable sources as well, saying that we were keeping an eye on the situation. And I know, again, we were talking about before, but those reliable sources haven't quite cropped up yet with anything substantial or anything with any real weight behind it. But to me, and this might be a massive shot in the dark, but to me, I think it's starting to feel a little bit like the worst kept secret in almost James Maddison-esque inevitability that I think Eze
does resemble that.
I think it could happen.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised. I think it'll be a very hard deal to do because, like you said, with no release clause, all the bargaining powers with Crystal Palace. He signed a new contract, I think, this season.
Last season. Oh, this season, early 2023. Late 2023.
Yeah, so season just gone.
Yeah.
All the bargaining powers with them. But they have sort of said that they will entertain 60, 70 million. I think it's probably worth that. Spurs have got to get on it now because Daniel Levy and Steve Parish, it's going to be a little bit like this. They're kind of cut from the same cloth in the sense. I know Parish has got a little bit more of a favourable media perception. And the way he runs Palace alongside, I can't remember the names of the other investment groups because it's a bit of a complicated way that the pie is sliced up at Palace in terms of stakes and stuff. But it's going to be a lot of butting heads, I think. So Spurs need to do it now. Spurs need to get on it now. Again, the added complication is that he's away with England, so that makes any transfer harder to do. We probably, if he does sign, we won't see him till July at the earliest. But I feel confident. I feel confident about it. I really do, and I really want it. I want it now. Imagine being that kid, mate.
Oh, mate, it'd be so good. It'd be so good. I'd much prefer Eze. Keep trying to develop Sarr. Bergvall looks absolutely outstanding for his age. Keep trying to develop him.
His last game, wasn't he, for them yesterday?
Yeah, but Europa League screams a Lucas Bergvall, like the Lucas Bergvall show. I can imagine him just turning up and just being like, "Oh my god, this kid's insane," and then start integrating him into the Prem because that's such a good sort of stage for Bergvall to show what he's got. But if we sign Gallagher, that's a lot of rotation for Bentancur, Sarr, Bergvall, Gallagher. I think it's a lot more beneficial to the squad if we bring in like an out and out six.
Yeah.
For competition for Bissouma. Tyrese Hall could be integrated a little bit in Europa League as well. I mean, Europa League is a tough competition, and then have Eze competing in that, just up in the quality of our attacking options and the depth and the attacking options, getting rid of the Hills, the Solomons, the Sessegnons, bringing in the Ezes, a winger, maybe a young winger or an established winger like a Rafinha who we've been linked with, Paul O'Keefe's linked us with in the last few months, or a Nico Williams or something like that. You've got, and maybe we'll talk about the striker sort of situation with Richarlison, but upgrading the players around in the quality in that attacking depth, and we're sweet for the Premier League, the Europa League. We could really compete.
Yeah.
And there's no anxiety around, oh, fuck, what happens if he gets injured? Because we've got players to come in straight away and there won't be a drop-off. So that's exciting. We were linked with, you mentioned it briefly, we were linked with Joe Bellingham from Sunderland this morning. We weren't going to talk about it, but it literally dropped just before we started recording. What are you thinking on that? Because I was thinking he's the sort of player that we sign him and then loan him out. Because that would make sense if it's like 20 mil, but I'm not too fussed over that sign. I think there's a bit more hype. I mean, he's so young. I think people forget he's like 18 years old, isn't he?
Yeah.
But And he again, he just looks like a genetic freak, like Bellingham, like the size of him, how he's sort of started to fill out already, and he does look good for like a box to box in the Championship. He looks solid, but if we sign him, I personally loan him straight out or get him maybe loan him to Palace. Imagine that. Okay, it's fucking FIFA career mode, but sign Bellingham, loan him out for a year or so at Palace. Do what Chelsea did with Conor Gallagher to Palace, and then use that in the negotiation for Eze.
Yeah,
and then end up with both.
yeah. Fuck you, Steve Parish.
Such a Daniel Levy, but
that was so like it is, isn't it? I mean, it's exciting because I think I think a lot of people haven't really seen Jobe play, including myself. I haven't seen too much of him. I remember we were linked with him going back to last year, like as in the first few months he was at Sunderland, I think. Someone we were keeping an eye on, and I sort of made an active effort to sort of keep an eye on him. And he's got something. I mean, Jude is an absolute freak. But Jobe, I think he's a little bit more raw. I don't think he's quite as defined in what he is as a player as Jude is. Maybe that just comes with that confidence and aura that Jude has got. Which, by the way, a bit of a tangent, but some of the stuff I've been seeing and reading about Bellingham the last couple of days in terms of like, why do people not like him all of a sudden? It's mad, isn't it? Like, have you seen it? Have been sort of, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen that. Like,
but with Jobe, like, I think when you consider some of the younger players coming through the academy as well, is Jobe 20? Is he 20 or is he? No, he must be younger than Jude, right?
He's 18, I think. He's 18 years old, I think. Yeah.
Does that make sense when you've got Donnelly, you've got Tyrese Hall, you've got these players coming through the academy that can play in midfield, players that a little bit more box to box, players at number 10? If Spurs were to sign Jobe Bellingham, naturally that's like, oh, okay, like it sort of pricks your interest a little bit, but
yeah,
I'm not too fussed. I'm not too fussed either way. I don't think it's a case of like, no thanks. I think if there's a deal to do, there's a deal to do, and I think I agree with you. It should be loaned out, but then it's like, what does that say to some of the players coming through the academy if you're going to sign an 18-year-old with that hype? And I don't think that hype is just because he's Jude's brother. I don't. I think he's got something. I do. And I think a lot of people want to say that. You wouldn't be a Championship footballer if you were just living off the coattails of your older brother who's playing at Real Madrid. He's obviously a good footballer. And he's 18. He's got so much more time to...
18 Championship, established Championship player at 18.
And also, Sunderland have been really sort of unstable were quite unstable last season. So if he was at another team where the environment was maybe there for him to thrive a little bit more, then I think we would have seen him explode a little bit more last season in the Championship. But exciting, but not too fussed. But more just because of the balance of the squad rather than the player, I think, for me.
Yeah, it's definitely, if it happens, it's definitely one for the future. Like, I can't see him just like coming into the team and making us better. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's not going to be one of those signings, and that's why I think it would be a quality deal if we just loan him out straight away, and maybe you're looking already towards replacing Bentancur when Bentancur moves on in the next couple of years, or maybe 3 or so years. And I don't know. I think like I don't know. It'll just be one for. It's a potential signing. It's what he could be in 3 years, and we don't want to miss out on him. We don't want him being 50 mil in a couple of years and being like, oh, well, he's just a bit expensive. Or do you know what I mean? Another thing that's happened over a couple of weeks here, Ben, which I want to touch on really quickly, is a couple of managerial changes. First one being Poch parting ways with Chelsea after one season. Does that damage his reputation in the fact that he's gone to Chelsea for a year, parted ways, and like it's like, why did you sell your soul for 1 year of your career? Or is it like, oh, can we like him again now? Do you know what I mean?
I think the latter. I think we can like him again now. Can I be honest? Can I be honest?
Yeah, go on.
I never stopped liking him. I never stopped liking Poch. How can you not look at him, man? Like, I know it was horrible to. Really, I never.
Only in the fact that he. I just couldn't believe he did it. Like, I couldn't believe. Now I'm like, okay, I can forgive you, but it's like the prodigal son, isn't it? Or is that the thing where he goes off, sleeps with a load of prostitutes and that, and then comes home and he's like, he's lost all his money. It's like that, and you're just there like, oh, we do love you. Come on.
Yeah, come on, come back. Come have a cup of tea. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So, I never stopped liking him. I'll be honest. It was hard to see him as a Chelsea boss, but I think that I almost ended up feeling quite sorry for him because it was clear that the absolute mess that is Chelsea was always going to mean that he was never going to be able to properly succeed. So I kind of had it in the back of my mind that even the only thing that was when they started playing well towards the back end of the season, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah, you could see
he's going to win
it
so many,
switched.
But when that happened,
Yeah.
when he left, I was like, I was buzzing with it because I was just like, oh, it means we can actually probably like him again. I really want him as the next England manager after Southgate because I want to love him
that'd
again.
be quality.
I want to love him again.
Yeah, that would be quality.
I didn't love him when he was at Chelsea, but I still liked him, and I didn't like that. If made me feel queasy, but I want a reason to love Poch. I want Poch back in my life, not as a Spurs manager. Love Ange, but I love Poch. How can you not look? He's charming. He's a good manager. He's still obviously got a lot of respect and love for us. I never stopped liking him, and I certainly never hated him.
He never stopped working for us during the whole that whole sort of. The Chelsea fans hated him. They couldn't warm up to him because he kept bigging up Spurs. And to be I wish him the best of luck. And the bridges haven't been burnt. I don't think they're in the future.
No, definitely not.
I can still see him coming back Spurs at some point. I feel like he wants to do that. And he never even ruled that out when he was Chelsea manager. That's why they were so fucking pissed off with him. But he's I just think. If he'd have won that League Cup with Chelsea, if he'd won anything with Chelsea, I would not have been able to recover from that. Because
that would have been horrible.
That would have just been disgusting. Yeah. And they would have had that bragging rights with that fact that he won something with them in 1 year and he didn't win anything with us. But he didn't, and it sort of ended in an ugly way, and I like it. But when he was sacked, and there's rumors about it's because of the players, the key players for him being like Chalobah, Gallagher towards the back end of the season, especially Chalobah at the end of the season, but Gallagher throughout the whole year has been consistent. That's when I thought, now Poch has departed, Gallagher to Spurs is like set in stone. But now, I mean, I would prefer Eze over Gallagher, but we've sort of had that conversation. But another thing, Company going to Bayern. This is interesting because first of all, I can't actually see Kane winning a trophy at Bayern Munich now in the next couple of years, especially whilst Alonso's at Leverkusen. No, I can't, because there's no way Company's an upgrade on Tuchel. I mean, he might get better, more aesthetically pleasing football, but what resume is? I know Tuchel's, he seems a bit washed, but what resume has Company got to come in and do a better job? And Alonso is so established at Leverkusen now. Kane, I can see Kane going trophyless again. I wouldn't even be surprised. I don't even think it could be that surprising. Is he? The thing is, as well, Company was rumored to be Spurs manager last year for quite a period of time, and I'm pretty sure there was rumors saying that apparently Kane, it wouldn't be enough to keep Kane at the club. But has there been more of a cursed footballer in football history than Harry Kane?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely not. Did you see that tweet that was like, I can't remember who put it out. That was basically, it was when Aurier, Sanchez and Ndombele won the league with Galatasaray. They were like, this just adds to the list of all of the players that have won a trophy since they've left Spurs. Luka Modric has become the most decorated player in Real Madrid's history. And he'd only left Spurs 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So for Kane not to win a trophy is mad. But I think I think Leverkusen will have a bit of a come down next year. I actually think Bayern need this a little bit. I think that if it would have been more convincing if they'd have gone out and said that Company is our guy from the start, because I think it would have been easier to get behind, would have been easier to back. Yes, it might not make a hell of a lot of sense, but if they're like, right, we kind of want this as a project, we like his football vision, I think a lot of the fans would almost buy into it. Again, they kind of have that level of maybe impatience like a Chelsea do. Bayern are a bit of a shit show, but not in the same way as like a Barcelona or a Man United maybe, or a Chelsea. I don't mind the appointment. I think it's mad that he's kind of failed upwards in the sense of like getting relegated with Burnley. But if they maybe see enough in him as a coach, then I don't mind it. I think Kane will like working with someone like Company at a club that he's happy to be there at. But I think, like you say, like I don't think it would have been enough to keep him at Spurs last year. I just want to know if they're going to make a cap big enough for his head. It's huge. Absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. I've never seen a manager wear worse touchline drip, by the way. It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah, it is terrible. They used that over the last couple of years with Nagelsmann. Yeah, supply teacher. Yeah, I feel like
they like the t-shirt and trousers and sort of like the trainers that all the pundits wear. It's like that.
Yeah, they like that. Yeah. I feel like there's too much player power in that Bayern dressing room, and I feel like they won't take him seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like he'll come in and he'll try and establish himself with a bit of authority. There's too much toxic sort of too much toxicity in that dressing room. There's too many chefs in the first of all at the board, too many cooks in the kitchen. I think Seb tweeted that, and I thought, yeah, that's true. Too many cooks in the too many chefs in the kitchen, and there's too much player power going on in the dressing room, and I just feel like they'll chew him up and spit him back out. And I feel for Kane. Say Kane wins the Euros, yeah, as England captain.
Yeah,
we need some club trained players. Cheeky bid, come on, Mary.
Cheeky little bid for Harry Kane. Yeah, fucking bring him back. Get him in. Do you think? I think Bayern. Part of me kind of feels like, even though the company appointment is a little bit maybe uninspiring to the outside of kind of football world, I think the order in Germany will kind of be restored a little bit next year, because I think Bayern weren't anywhere near as bad as people have kind of made out. It's just that I almost think that they kind of needed this to happen with Leverkusen, because they were sailing so close to the win before. Like, Dortmund should have won the league last season, and they did it on the final day. Bayern saved themselves because Dortmund bottled it, essentially.
Yeah.
Leverkusen have been incredible. Bayern have been good, but not great, and they needed to be great to win it against an immovable force in Leverkusen, who went the whole season unbeaten, except for the Europa League final. I almost think they kind of needed that little shot in the arm, and I kind of think that this appointment... Apparently, Alphonso Davies is looking at signing a new contract now as well. Maybe staying at Bayern.
Yeah, it's looking up a little bit.
I think they'll win the league again next year. I think they'll go back to win the league. Sorry, I just sneeze.
Yeah. I can't...
This is all over the place.
I know, it is, yeah. If there has been like sudden cuts, it's because the connection keeps going, by the way. So yeah, stay with us.
Sorry about that.
That's what we love about Daring to Do now. It's like organised chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've really hoped for Kane's sake he wins the trophy, because otherwise it's just a fucking waste of time in being in Germany.
Yeah.
So come on, Mary. What we'll do is we'll sell players. We'll buy some players in with the players we sell, and we'll just break even from the profit we made on Kane last year and just spend that on him again.
Yeah,
and
sounds good to me.
And then give them the revenue sales from the 2 friendlies we've organised. And then that's a fair deal. Or 20 mil on Højbjerg.
Yeah, fine. That's fine. Højbjerg seems like such a Bayern company player, I think.
Yeah, he does.
He was there before. He was there before, wasn't he? But
he was.
Maybe,
yeah, that's true.
maybe, have we got our own Harry Kane? New Harry Kane 2.0 in the academy? Will Lancashire?
Used to be
at Arsenal. 20. How many goals?
Not a resemblance.
3 goals or something in the PL2. Player of the year. The title winning team.
Yeah.
Good finisher. Get him in. Maybe we don't need Harry. We got a new one.
He does. He does. I was going to ask, actually. Obviously, we won the Premier League 2. Unbelievable achievement considering what was going on last year. And Will Lancashire winning the player of the competition, didn't he? He won player of the season. How realistic is the integration of youth into the team next year? Because we're going to get on to Timo Werner as well, which this divided a lot of opinions due to the sort of standing in the way of the path of the Santiagos, the Mikey Moores. Yeah. We'll get onto that in a minute. But how realistic is their integration next year?
I think there's a real opportunity to do it, to integrate some of these players on a more of a consistent basis. I think it was a bit of a disappointment towards the end of the season that we took someone like Jamie Donnelly up to Sheffield and then didn't bring him off the bench. It feels like there should have been more minutes for some of those players towards the back end. I know Mikey Moore got his chance in those couple of back-to-back games towards the end. Dane Scarlett had been given a real opportunity, really, in games that kind of mattered as well, which was nice to see with Scarlett, because he came on against Burnley when we needed that goal. Gave him about 20-odd minutes, I think, didn't he? And we looked better with that focal point up front. And I think next year, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the likes of Scarlett, with Veliz as well. I think the forward areas is where the biggest roadblock is for some of those youngsters. Whereas, if you're looking at Tyrese Hall, I think there's more of a pathway for someone like him into the first team setup than there is for maybe Lancashire, for Donnelly, for Santiago, for Moore, even though there was so much excitement around these players, there was a little bit more of a roadblock there. I want to see it. We all want to see it. You want to see. You always want to see homegrown players come through and get a chance.
Yeah.
And I think we've always said the Europa League is a great opportunity for them to do that. It feels as well with maybe someone like Skip potentially heading out the door. They're going to need those homegrown players to kind of step up and fill those spots as well a little bit within the European squad and stuff like that. There's going to be more of an onus on those players to sort of break through a little bit more. Again, it depends who we get in the group. There's 2 more games as well in the group stage of the Europa League than there would have been prior because of the new format, the league system.
Of course, yeah.
So there will be more of that onus on squad rotation. So I think it kind of all adds up to mean that we should see a lot of it. But then again, you've also got players like Alfie Devine, like players like that who we were also excited about. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm still excited about Alfie Devine for sure. But when the shiny new toys come through, like Mikey Moore and Jamie Donnelly, etc., it's like you realise that there was a lot of competition in those forward areas for the under 21s. Which is great, but it just means that not everybody's kind of going to get that crack of the whip that maybe they deserve. And obviously, Devine's been out on loan. Could maybe see loans from some of them again next year. Some of them need to kind of go out and have that experience in men's football. I think Will Lancashire is kind of primed for a loan. I do. I think with his physicality, I think the amount of goals he scored in 21s, I could see him going to a League One or maybe lower Championship club. But I think League One or League Two would be a great opportunity for him. I do think we'll see it. I think Ange wants to. I think that obviously we're seeing that with Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore's been smashing it for the under-17s as well. Looked like the best player, really. Him and Ethan, is it Nwaneri for Arsenal? Them two kind of being really the sort of like spearheads of that under-17 team, which, kind of bodes well for the excitement of the North London derby over the next sort of 5-10 years or so. If those two
that'd be so good.
And it feels like Mikey Moore's kind of getting that hype outside of Tottenham now as well. It feels like a bit like Nwaneri when I think was it Nwaneri that Arteta handed the debut to last season?
He was like the youngest Premier League player in Premier League history or something. Yeah.
And all of a sudden that meant that he just sort of became, he was thrust into the spotlight of the Premier League. Exactly, a name. And I think Mikey Moore, I think he's starting to become that a little bit. And I think as well, like, you have to kind of put it in context. He's on the naked eye, like he has leapfrogged the under-21s in terms of the pathway to the first team. Played a little bit of 21s.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say last season because the season's only just finished, but I mean the season before where we didn't win the league with the 21s 2 seasons ago, technically.
Yeah.
He played a little bit of 21 football. I think at the end then we would have been like 15. And obviously was smash it for the under-17s and under-18s then. But they've obviously seen something in him. He's been training with Spurs, since couple of weeks before the North London derby and being involved in every matchday squad up until the end of the season. We didn't say that as much with the 21s because I think they were clearly on the path to wanting to win that league. So it was like, we don't want to pull that squad apart as much. If there is an opportunity for them to be on the bench, if the calendar's kind of aligned, they're playing the midweek, we're playing the weekend, maybe we'll do it. We kind of saw that last game of the season. Even though they played the PL2, I think, semi-final against Chelsea on the same day, but we still saw Donnelly in the squad, Scarlett as well. But I think kind of going around the house a bit, but I want to see it. And I think we will see more of it this year because I think this year was about integrating that style of play, integrating that philosophy, getting everybody on board, and now creating that pathway for the 21s. There's going to be a lot of competition for places, but it's a good thing.
Well, that brings me on to Timo Werner being signed for another year on loan. How are you feeling about that? Because there was so much contrast in opinions on. It really seemed like we've split the fan base on that move. So it's another year. We just loaned him out for another year. We did have a buy option on him for about 15 mil. We've not taken that up. We've loaned him for one more year. And then the buy option next season, is it lower or is it the same price? I can't remember.
I think it's around a similar price. I don't think it's exactly the same.
But I for one don't think we're going to sign him for permanently. I think it's just just that sort of filler because I think, and this is my opinion on it all, because there was a lot of fuss thrown about how if I was Mikey Moore, I'd be pissed off. Santiago, I think Santiago's got more of a right to feel pissed off than Mikey Moore because Mikey Moore, at the end of the day, he's so talented. Yeah. He's 16 years old. Like, I didn't even have any pubes when I was 16. He's training with the first team. He is unbelievable. But yeah, we have to be a bit more realistic, and also we need to really think about if he's got the talent, there's a whole new package of how many talented, unbelievable players at that age have we seen not make it because it's got to their head almost. We need to really manage him and manage the expectation and the pressure and the whole package and baggage around his potential, and sort of allow him to achieve that organically instead of trying to just force it upon him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So I feel like one more year of Werner isn't as dramatic as people think. I think everything that's happening, because you're in the now, it seems a lot more dramatic. But in a year's time, Marky Moore's going to be 17 years old.
Yeah.
17 years old. We probably won't sign Werner on a permanent, and then Werner's gone, and maybe Santiago. I think there's more of a argument to be made from Santiago's camp, thinking, where am I going to get the game time? Maybe he goes out on loan. Maybe we got a plan for him. Maybe he goes out on loan, gets kicked, finds his feet with the sort of physicality of men's football, because such a jump between youth team football and professional football. And then when he comes back, we can start integrating more Santiago, because Werner won't be here long term. He's 28 years old. Is he 28? He's not going to be a long term future. He's a stopgap whilst these players aren't ready yet. And then you've got two wingers that are homegrown, club trained, and much more prepared for first team football. What do you think? That's my opinion on it, anyways. What do you think?
I'm pretty much in the same camp, to be honest. I'm not as convinced on him as I was maybe when we were doing this podcast a couple of months ago, and I think we were both pretty much in the camp of that. I think it just makes too much sense not to sign him on a permanent deal. Obviously, that hasn't transpired. A few of the issues, obviously, he's still going to be here, but it's going to be on a loan deal, which kind of, like you said, kind of means that they don't really see his long-term future. But in terms of that continued squad building, I think it makes sense, especially if you can get rid of the likes of Brian Hill or Manor Solomon, who I don't think really add anything to the squad. Maybe that's harsh on Solomon. I'm not really that bothered. I think Werner's more cut out for the Premier League. I think what we saw in a short sample size from Werner was actually pretty good. I thought it was a bit of a shame how the season kind of ended. And I think the injury kind of made people's perceptions on him change pretty quickly. But I think there were a few games, I think towards the end of the season, where we actually missed him quite a bit. You could tell like we were trying to experiment with all these different things, like Kulusevski on the left against Burnley, Kulusevski more in the 10 against Chelsea, and it wasn't Johnson back on the left against Liverpool. It wasn't really working. We didn't nail it. And I think I'm not saying that Werner's injury kind of made that all fall apart, but yes, he lacks that ruthlessness in front of goal, but I think as a squad player, I'm absolutely fine with it. It's more the issue of obstructing the development of some of the younger players. But again, I think when you actually zoom out and realise how young they are, and actually how at this stage of some of their careers, like you say with Santiago especially, who's knocking on the door and he's been on the bench once, I think maybe for Ange. I think it was at City away, was it not? Or maybe not. But I think that now it's like, you just have to zoom out a bit, realise that there was so much development then still to do. And I think another year of Werner really isn't the worst thing in the world. It's a little bit annoying that we're paying all of his wages. They obviously see him as a bit of you could argue that they still see him as a bit of a stopgap, but I think he's kind of more than that, really. I think he was pretty reliable when he played. So I don't have a major issue with it at all, to be honest.
Ange loved him. Ange played him every game on the left. He played him over. He would play him over Johnson or Kulusevski on that left-hand side, and he was an established first-team player for when he was in the team, like until he got injured. But I think he could be a really important sort of. I think the thing about him and Werner is they're very chaotic, very erratic. They can work in certain games, but a lot of the time, both of them together doesn't match up to sort of the game state. It almost makes it. I think Harry Brooks was saying this on a Farting Cock. This isn't me saying this, but the way that games would sort of become a bit uncontrollable and chaotic because they were so tunnel vision in get to the byline quick, get on the ball, sprint, and there was no sort of game. There wasn't really any thinking process of what's the game telling me to do. Is this a time to just retain the ball, keep hold of the ball? And if you've got a player like Eze on the wing that does that, then we don't have that problem. Werner would be a really good impact substitution when there's tired legs in the defense and you bring on, so say Johnson, Werner to do that when the game's getting away from, like the players are so tired from having to deal with Eze, Son, maybe another winger, hopefully. I think it makes sense for this year. I think it's a smart signing for this year, especially because we're playing a lot more games. And yeah, Ange really liked it. But
Yeah.
Marcus Edwards has been linked with us this week. Alistair Gold has reported that we're interested. We're sort of looking at that opportunity. It's definitely an opportunity due to some certain circumstances. One being that he's a homegrown club-trained player for Europe, and two, because we have a 35% sell-on clause from his 15 million price tag, meaning that he's gettable for around 9 million, I think. Is that a realistic deal? Because of we are opportunity FC, and we normally do this sort of thing. But okay, I know we've just said Werner's a smart signing. If we sign Marcus Edwards, why the fuck did we sign Werner as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, how are you feeling about that link?
I'm in the same camp as that, because it's like Marcus Edwards has obviously got talent. He has obviously got talent, but it just feels a little bit like, and I hate sort of saying this, because it's like I feel like so many people sort of tar Levy with this brush a lot of the time, and I think their perceptions of Levy almost get in the way of smart deals at Spurs sometimes and say, oh, it's a cheap option. But this just feels a little bit like they're trying to be clever, because they've got the sell-on clause kind of included in that. And yes, he's homegrown. Yeah. Marcus Edwards has got real talent. But and if we hadn't assigned Werner, then yeah, okay. But again, Marcus Edwards can't really play on the left-hand side. He likes to operate on the right. Werner's very much on the left. So it's like they're not even competing with each other. So it doesn't, and we've got depth in those positions, and we still need to add someone on top of that, like an Eze or a Williams. So I don't really get it. I don't get it. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen. I know Ali Gold was sort of talking about it, but naturally as well, like in terms of the actual link, like of course Spurs would be interested. Of course they would. Of course they'd be keeping an eye on a deal like that. And obviously, apparently it's been reported that Edwards is happy to come back, but I don't see that one getting off the ground, to be honest.
It actually really pissed me off. It really pissed me off being linked with him, because, I mean, if we hadn't signed Werner and he signed, it would make a lot of sense, and I think people would accept it a lot easier. I just think there's too many players there. Then if Edwards comes in, because he isn't that player to elevate us. He's just another sort of squad rotation player, and we got so many of them players, especially now Werner's there. So I'm happy with Werner being that squad rotation player. If he's the only rotation player, and then we bring in another world-class winger that takes us to the next level, or a player that has the potential to be world-class, I don't see Marcus Edwards getting much better than he already is. He's an inside forward as well. He comes inside. Do you know what? He is a glorified Podence. Yeah. And that's really harsh, but Podence is a good player. He's a decent player for Wolves. If we were linked, I think there's sort of it's like romanticized when an English player leaves home and goes to and goes abroad and does relatively well, and it is very much like, oh, fair play to him, and then they come back to the Prem and there's an excitement about him. Edwards, I just don't think if we were linked with Podence right now, it would be a lot more negative than it is. Marcus Edwards being a homegrown player. Sort of one of our own coming back and back in the team. But he left in the first place for a lack of first team football as well, didn't he?
Yeah. And he's
going to be 25 now.
Yeah,
he's going to be 20. He's 25 now. He's not going to be happy with a bit part position in the team.
Yeah, I mean, and also like who really knows the reliability of this? But like I saw Nathan Clark was sort of saying that he got told by various sources that there was a bit of a thing about not his attitude, but his, or was it the Nathan that said about, I saw that Nathan was tweeting something about things that he heard about Edwards. I don't want to misquote him, but there has been things about Edwards.
A couple of red flags.
And I think I can't find it, but I'm sure Nathan was saying something about it that he heard from a couple of. I don't know whether it was about the attitude thing or whether it was about the fact that he left in terms of pursuit of like first team football. He didn't really feel like there was the plan there. I don't want to misquote it, but it was one of those two things. I'm sure it was. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
I really hope that it's just like we're just looking at that opportunity at the moment and we don't go for it. It just really makes sense.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Of course, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Another sort of, so if we're looking for club trained homegrown players, Troy Parrott has had an
He's
excellent
banging in the goals,
excellent season at Excelsior. Yeah, he's did he get back-to-back hat-tricks?
Yeah, he got a hat trick
Or
yesterday,
he got a
and he
hat-trick
got a hat trick
yesterday.
last week.
Look, he's still very young. There was the hype died with him a couple like for over the last couple of years. It has sort of died because he's had a few loans that just haven't worked out. But I mean, I'm not comparing him to Harry Kane, but Harry Kane had a few poor loans to sort of find his feet in men's football, and he has found his feet this season. He's got 22 goals and assists in 32 appearances for Excelsior, and Excelsior just got relegated. They're not that good, but that's in their Eredivisie. And we're looking at players, strikers in the Eredivisie like Santiago Jimenez is apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Troy Parrott, who fits the mould of being club trained and homegrown. Could he have a part to play next season? Because he actually fits the Ange system well as well. A relentless worker. He's looking more physical. He's very, very technically gifted. His catalogue of goals has been excellent as well. He's had a bit of everything this year when it comes to goals. Do you think he has he has a part to play next season, or is he just a sellable asset now?
First of all, I think it's important to, like you sort of alluded to, give him his flowers as well, because he has had a difficult couple of years to sort of find his feet in men's football. He's been excellent as well. You've seen such a variety of finishing, great hold-up play, like you said, a really tireless worker. And I would love it for him to come back and explode at Tottenham. Is it just the case of the fact that again, a little bit like we've said with some of the other areas of the squad, that the blockage, there is just too much of a blockage in front of him now with Scarlett, who Ange seems to really like. Obviously, again, you can't ignore the emergence of someone like Will Lancashire. So I would love it. I'd love Troy to be given a pre-season. I think he deserves that. I think he's earned that at least at minimum.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, 100%
with the team. And these games against Hearts, QPR, Vissel Kobe, Bayern Munich, I know that sort of takes you into August. And maybe he would want something sorted out in terms of his future by the start of the EFL season, if he gets some permanent move to maybe a championship club, who could do a hell of a lot worse than him, by the way, because I think if he's found the right environment, I think he could really, really thrive. I think there was so much hype around Troy Parrott. There was that time, obviously, where he was, I think, 17, where Mourinho sort of brought him into the first team a little bit because we had that injury to Kane. People expected so much at that time. He's found his feet a little bit now, and I think he could be a really exciting option for someone to pick him up. I think Spurs will probably look at him as a bit of a saleable asset, which I think is a bit of a shame, but it also makes sense. But again, I think like everybody, I think when you've got this amount of young talent and you've got a packed pre-season like we've got, you know, with those games against Hearts, QPR, there'll be a lot of pre-season games for the 21s. I think a lot of those games have been confirmed as well. Give him a chance. Why not give him a chance? I'd like to see it. Again, I think there might be slight complications around the European homegrown rules about the fact that he's Irish as well, but he's club trained, so I need to get my head into all that. I don't really know how that would impact us a little bit, but
isn't homegrown where you've just had your youth at a homegrown club, or is it actual nationality?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't actually know the full ins and outs and stuff like that, but we clearly have an issue there. Hence why we're linked with Marcus Edwards, Cole Peters, and
I think you're right, because that's why Dyer. That's why Dyer wasn't homegrown in Europe, because he was trained in Portugal.
I think you have to have. I think you have to have 3 years from the age of 15 to 21, where you've been trained at something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's something around that. But he could just tick a few boxes, and instead of buying Marcus Edwards, maybe loaning out Scarlett, Valise, maybe Lancashire, we're going to talk about Richarlison in a minute, but maybe Richarlison and a striker, and then Parrott, because we're going to be playing in 4 competitions next year. So I don't know. I mean, he suits the system. Give him a chance. My worry, again, we're going back to Mikey Moore. My worry about Mikey Moore is that we put too much expectation on him, like we did with Parrott, and I think it got to his head. There was a few things emerging with Troy Parrott that maybe there was a video, and there was a few things about maybe that sort of attention maybe got to him, or that spotlight. There was a few things that emerged, and I think he's been very mature in the fact that he's gone away and found his feet again, and sort of got out of the headlines, got out of that sort of that pressured environment. If he can come back a lot more mature, and he looks really good.
Yeah,
Maybe that pre-season in this system it suits him, but yeah, I really like him. I want the best for him, and maybe it just ticks a few boxes to have him around next season. I don't know,
yeah.
but
I think that's an
what were you
important
saying?
point you make as well before we kind of move on, is that I really like that about players who kind of put themselves out of that comfort zone and take themselves out of that bubble and go
Yeah,
abroad. Like, you've seen how well that's benefited other players, especially going to a lot of young English players going to Germany as well, like in Italy as well, like Tomori and Tammy Abraham as well.
yeah,
Sancho obviously going to Dortmund at a young age, going back there. Bellingham again was another example. Like, Troy Parrott is not on that level, but again,
no,
I like that about players that will take themselves out of that comfort zone and go and do it when it's not working for them
yeah.
here. And I think it might be the making of him a little bit. Hopefully it is, and hopefully it's for Spurs. But again, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what they
It's
do
hard
with
to
him.
tone at the moment, innit?
Yeah, I sat next to him
It's
in a
so hard
wagon
to
on
tell
this
at the
once.
moment. Did you?
Yeah, in Enfield, yeah. I was having a
That's
katsu curry,
funny.
turned round. It was in lockdown, actually. I turned round, I was like, it's Troy Parrott over there. I'm just having a little katsu curry.
Mate, you always end up sitting next to people like Vicario's mum and dad and stuff like
Yeah.
that, mate.
Yeah,
Very lucky.
I know, mate.
We maybe they're looking for you.
They
They're like,
could
oh,
be.
that's maybe he went, oh, fucking Ben Bowman off TikTok.
Yeah. My picture.
Yeah. Yeah, he asked you for a vote and you were like, nah.
Nah, sorry, who are you?
Richarlison has come out and sort of, well, he tweeted out saying that he'll be staying in England this summer. Does that, so talk about strikers, does that put that to bed now on whether he'll be leaving or staying? Or do you still see us and see the club cashing on him, which like Dan Kilpatrick, I think, has like suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah, he suggested that we'd cash in on him if there was the right fee, we still would. Can you see it? Do you think he'll stay?
I think Spurs will still look to cash in on Richarlison. I think it's all sort of. I love Richie and I'd absolutely love him to stay. But again, him sort of coming out and saying that he's going to stay in England, I'd like to see what the club sort of say about that. I think if they can't
Yeah,
find a striker option that they really, really want, I think they'll stick with Richie, which I'm fine with. It's just the issue in terms of the fitness that we've seen over the course of the season, which is a problem. But I think if they bring in someone who they see as a bit of an upgrade, in someone like Ivan Toney, maybe. There's been rumours of Toney again this morning. Again, who knows how reliable those sources are, but
yeah.
that's not going away.
No, it's not.
I think that they might see, especially with some of the youngsters coming through, is there room for both of them? However, you could argue that with the likes of Scarlett and Lancashire and Valiz, if they were all to be loaned out again next year, it's 1 year more of experience for all of those players, which means that you can keep Richarlison and maybe a Toney or a Solanke and have them compete for a year. Then, if Richarlison has another decent season, cash in next year. Again, you probably wouldn't be able to get the same amount of money We've been. Welcome back, guys. This has been.
Yeah, fucking hell.
What was I saying? Oh, yeah.
It's cashing in. Sorry, mate.
It'd be hard to cash in next year because it's like you don't know how much. Naturally, even if he doesn't have another decent season, his value will naturally depreciate a little bit. But I'd love to see him stay. I just think that I would not be surprised if he leaves.
Yeah, the thing is,
I don't know what's going to happen, but I would not be surprised if he leaves. Yeah.
yeah. The thing is that like the summer is so long. Like the transfer window hasn't even opened yet. Like, so much happens over the next. So much is going to happen over the next 2 years, as it always does with the transfer window. They're hectic. There's so many things. It's an emotional roller coaster as a fan because you're constantly being fed day in day out news or contrasting news, and your opinions are always flip flopping no matter what the news is. So I don't know. It's a long season. I feel like you could ask us. I think right now it looks like he's staying. But you could ask me the same question in a month's time, and I could be saying, yeah, it's definite that he's leaving, or it really looks like it, because there's a lot of interested clubs, and we're looking to sell him. So I don't know. It's up in the air at the moment. The only thing is, if we sign, say we keep Richarlison, do you just see us maybe not going for that sort of quality or status striker signing like a Tony or a Gyökeres or something like that? Can you see us maybe going for a player that sort of competes to the same level, or more a potential signing of someone that fits the system, but someone who's a little bit less known? Maybe someone the equivalent to a Van der Ven, but that sort of name, but as a striker. Could you see that if Richarlison stays?
Yeah, maybe. I think sort of what we were talking about earlier in terms of someone like an Eze. I think this is the window where you have to add that real quality, and I don't think
it is. Yeah,
I wouldn't be unhappy with Richarlison still being our main striker next season and bringing in someone a little bit more unknown. But then again, what does that say to the development of some of these younger players? I just think that all kind of roads lead to us needing to sign that name as a striker, someone with that weight, someone with that catalogue, someone like a Tony or someone like a Solanke, or someone like a Gyökeres would be amazing, but I just can't see that. But I think it's pretty much nailed on that Spurs will sign Tony. I've got this feeling. I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Homegrown as well. There's so many, and there's been rumours that we want to sign a Premier League proven striker. But for Tony, I'm thinking we're not going to sign anyone for over 60 mil for a striker. Tony's rumoured to be about 40 mil. So I can see us maybe keeping Richarlison and signing Tony. It's just whether that dynamic works with that sort of with the competition, or because they both like being the main man. So it'd be interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and maybe we just have to be brutal and just sell Richarlison, and just be like, look, this is what we want to do as a club, and we're sorry if you want to stay, but I'd love to. If Richarlison stays, brilliant. But it's just we need that striker to come in. There's such an issue because we didn't even have Europe last year, and we were struggling with signing Richarlison up front because of the availability, and certain games just don't suit Son as a striker. So yeah, if you're not fit, you're not hit, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Last sort of transfer link we'll talk about in this episode is Murillo from Nottingham Forest. So the Athletic, I think the Athletics correspondent for Nottingham Forest, I don't know his name, I think he reported this, and Ali Gold has also reported that we're sort of not interested, but we've been considering and we're looking at Murillo, especially due to their financial situation in Forest, and they have to sell before the 30th of June. Does that excite you? And where can you see him play in the system? Because I'm all over this signing. I think this would be unbelievable. 21 years old, progressive carrier, brilliant distributor, unbelievable defender. He is 6 foot, but he's got a big jump on him. What are you thinking?
I mean, Murillo's been great for Forest. I can't see this one happening, but I would quite like it to. I think in terms of backup for Van der Ven, you couldn't really find more players more suited to be in that. You could argue that he's too good for a backup, sort of similar to what people have been saying with Dragusin, but it's building that squad. Again, I just kind of look at players like Phillips and Dorrington and maybe think that should that spot be reserved for someone like that when you've got 3 quality centre-backs in Romero, Dragusin and Van der Ven. But don't get me wrong, if all bets are off the table, I would absolutely love Sam Murillo. Again, it's kind of like Spurs prying over the financial situation of another club, which we know we like to do. There's been a few Gibbs White rumours come up again the last couple of days. I think that's lazy journalism. I think that's a bit of paper talk. I can't see that personally. I don't think he offers you the same kind of flexibility as someone like an Eze does, even though they're sort of cut from the same cloth in terms of their actual position. Again, the Hudson-Odoi thing has kind of died down very quickly since the Werner news came about. But Murillo seems to be the one that they might be sniffing around. So I'd love it. I would be great if we did. I think that's, again, it's a bit of a sign of almost intent of like we're going to go out and buy 100%. It's good enough probably to start for Spurs that, you know, especially now as well when you've got Van der Ven, they might look at it and think, well, obviously we've been saying that we need backup fullback cover. But maybe if with how Van der Ven performed at left back towards the end of the season, maybe they see Van der Ven as that now a little bit as well. If the doggy was to get injured, that means you could bring in Murillo, you could play Van der Ven over there, you could change the system up a little bit. So Makes sense. I just part of me can't see it, but maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong because I'd like to see it happen. But I don't think it's a priority. But it'd be a nice little icing on the cake sign, I think.
Yeah. It compensates him playing. Say Van de Ven's playing left back. It just compensates for his pace because he's got that pace. It maybe not as quick as Van de Ven, but him playing left centre back and say like we don't have to worry about the transitions as much. I really like Dragicin playing in that.
I do as well.
In that back sort of. It was a hybrid of a back three, wasn't it? Really, because he'd tuck in middle, and Van de Ven would sort of tuck in as like a left centre back in left back because he had the pace to cover left back position as well. And if we can maybe do that for maybe get someone like a Murillo or a defensive left back, maybe do the same on the right other side of at right back. We link with like the Simicans and those types of players. They'd be able, we could do that both sides, and it just gives us another option in the way we set up our defense or in big games, etc. But it really excites me. I think it suits the strategy of the club, the age category, and everything. But how much would you think he'd cost? Maybe like upwards of 40 mil. I don't know. They don't really have any negotiation room because they need to sell. But
no,
for Forest, I think if they weren't in this situation, he'd be about 60, 70 mil. He's that good. He's got that much potential.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But then again, it sort of depends what happens with someone like Gibbs White. If Gibbs White then goes, I think they'll be able to hold on to someone like Murillo. But they've got saleable assets for us. They're kind of similar situation as they were in last year that they need to sell, but they have actually got players that are worth a lot of money. I don't think those two players especially are.
Yeah. Lastly then, Ben, Paul O'Keefe broke the news yesterday that Tottenham are in talks with MSP Sports Capital for a potential investment that could result in a stake in a club from up to 40% to the US group. So do you actually? I'm fucking so dumb, but do you Can you break that down to me? Are you aware of it?
Well, there was actually some rumors that came out just now. I was having a look at Twitter.
Oh, really?
And the club are very much shutting down any links from the inside.
They would do.
They would do that. That kind of either means that they did go into those negotiations, but nothing really came of it, or they're just trying to keep things quiet. Alistair Gold said, he tweeted. Where did he tweet it? I can't find it.
Ali Gold's on the case.
Ali Gold's on the case, mate.
There's been a bit of a rivalry between Ali Gold and Paul O'Keefe so far.
I know. Which one will get
with Hudson-Odoi? Yeah. Hudson-Odoi. Ali Gold sort of like shunned that. Paul O'Keefe obviously broke that we were like considering him. There's been a couple of things like that so far.
To be fair, it's very vague. Just on Football London, there's an article that basically it came about because there was a fan advisory board meeting, and they were asked about the links within the last 48 hours. It says here, at the club's latest fan advisory board meeting at the end of last month, the minutes which were published in the last 48 hours show that the staff from the club present, including Executive Director Donna Cullen, were asked by the fans on the board for an update of potential investment. However, the minutes read that the fan advisory board asked about potential equity investment referenced in the financial statement, and the club confirmed there was nothing further to discuss at this current moment. Football London understands that those within Spurs have strongly shot down the suggestion that the club is in investment talks with MSP Sports Capital, which suggests that if any exploratory talks did occur, then they did not reach an outcome that suited both parties. So either they've gone into negotiations and there is nothing to update, or something's happening and they just want to keep it quiet. Because they did say, didn't they? They did say in the financial report at the end of the season, or at the end of the financial year, saying that the club are open to. That was kind of the most open they'd been about it, wasn't it? That they were open to investment from third parties. So, mate, we're going to be the richest club in the world.
So what would that? What would the result be if they had that stake in the club? Like, would it be significant in the terms of like how the direction of the club in being sort of a monster, having that monster statement, that sort of, because we are a bit of a sleeping giant at the moment because of the stadium, because of the finances, the position we are, the leverage we have over other clubs with our finances. If we get this deal, say it happens, What's the impact? What can we do with that? What would happen? Is it a bit like Sir Jim Radcliffe at United?
Yeah, it feels a little bit like that. I think they'd still want. I think the club would still want the control over the football side of things. I think it's just they just want to spend somebody else's money. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Oh, okay,
a little bit. Whereas, so not really like Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe is more Ineos want that control, don't they? They want that.
Yeah.
They want that sporting control. They're going to put some of the money in, but they still want the Glazers to put money in as well. Whereas that seems to me that they just want the club want to be able to invest money in things that there's that new hotel going up at the ground. They want to kind of continue to invest in the infrastructure of the club as well as investing in the football side of things, but also that cash injection allows them to put more focus on investing in the football side of things as well. So it's not a bad thing. It'd be quite nice. 40%. That sounds good to me. Obviously, Levy and ENIC will still want to have that control, but it basically just seems like a cash injection.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds
good to me.
It sounds sounds good to me.
Sounds like money. Sounds like money to spend.
Sounds like bring me my money.
Sounds like Eze's happening. Also, if you're still with it, Eze watch will commence tonight, as it has been rumoured that he is going to be starting for England.
Oh yeah, something to look forward to.
Yeah,
perfect.
Exactly,
well,
mate.
We have to get this pod out this afternoon then.
Yeah, Eze watch must begin.
It must begin. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good
Ben,
to be back.
Thanks as always. It feels amazing. And let us know what's happening for you. Something big's happening over the next couple of weeks.
So something big's happening at Ben Bowman Towers. I'm having a baby. No, I'm joking. No, I'm so YouTube is coming very soon. I'll put a link in the description to the channel, because if you actually the channel is just going to be my name. We have got a slight issue in the sense that Ben Bowman is also the name of the UK's #1 Michael Jackson impersonator, as I actually discovered a long time ago. But when you go and search Ben Bowman into YouTube, it's not me that comes up. Partly that's because I haven't uploaded any videos yet. They are going to come this week. We've got some good videos coming. Will has been doing a smashing job working on the thumbnails and stuff. There's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Just need to get recording, which will commence this afternoon. So hopefully the first video and the sort of channel launch will be this week. So if anyone you're still listening, we'll pop a link in the description. If you could go and subscribe, that'd be class.
Perfect. Everyone, legends, thank you so much. Catch you all later.
Good to be back. Up the Spurs.
Up Spurs.